Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Yadhap Dahal. I'm one of the software engineers involved in development of Tombolo. With me here today is Matt Fancher, another software engineer who has also been actively working on this project. Together, we are thrilled to present Tombolo, an innovative open source project initiated by LexisNexis RIG Solutions. Our aim today is to take you on a journey through Tombolo's features and demonstrate its capabilities through some essential user stories. In this session, we will start with a brief UI tour of Tombolo to help you become familiar with its layout and design. Following the UI tour, we will explore 6 important user stories, each showcasing different aspects of Tombolo's functionality. Lastly, we will discuss the future roadmaps. Our goal today is to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of Tombolo's current capabilities and its future. Before I dive into demonstrating the user interface, I would like to provide a quick overview of what Tombolo truly represents. Tombolo is an advanced data lake curation system, meticulously designed to streamline the management of intricate data ecosystems. Seamlessly integrated with HPCC systems, Tombolo stands out for its robust automation capabilities, empowering users to seamlessly design and execute workflows spanning from data ingestion to final customer delivery. Additionally, Tombolo excels in asset monitoring within HPCC systems and offer customizable notification for detecting anomalies. Let us begin with a quick UI tour of Tombolo. For this, I'm switching to my browser. This is Tombolo's homepage. On the top over here, you'll see the header section where you'll find usual stuff like the help section for user guide. You can also see the current logged in user. And we have also introduced a language switcher to switch between languages. Now, Tombolo supports internationalization. Users will be able to configure Tombolo in any language they wish. On the left over here, we have this navigation. Vertical navigation, it is collapsed by default, and you can expand using this button right here. And we have some links, and they are separated by sections. Well, that was the quick tour of Tombolo's user interface. Now, without further ado, I would like to jump into some features inside Tombolo and demonstrate how Tombolo could simplify and elevate your interaction with HPCC systems. Imagine a scenario where a user needs to construct a workflow from a series of HPCC work units. Let us consider 3 distinct work units I have on the screen. The first one is get EV charger data. The purpose of this work unit is to initiate an API call to retrieve data related to EV chargers. The second work unit focuses on refining and transforming this EV data into desired format. The third work unit is responsible for uploading data file to a designated landing zone directory. However, the current challenge lies in seamlessly combining these work units to create cohesive workflow. Additionally, there is a lack of mechanisms to monitor work unit progress and to receive notification if they encounter issues. Furthermore, when it comes to reviewing the execution history of these work units, the process can be sometimes very cumbersome. With Tombolo, you can effortlessly perform this task without writing a single line of ETL code. Not only can you construct workflows, but you can also set up real-time notifications. and receive alerts when a work unit experiences a failure or deviates from desired state. This proactive approach empowers you to take corrective action before they impact the end customers. Furthermore, Tombolo facilitates easy tracking of execution history and allows you to pause, resume, and modify workflows through an intuitive user interface. Let us dive into Tombolo and explore this feature. For this, again, I'm going to switch to my browser. The first thing you need to do before designing a workflow is to import assets that you want to include. You can import assets using Tombolo's Asset Import widget, which can be accessed through the Assets page. When you are in Asset page, all you have to do is click on this Action button to access the Import widget. Once you have imported work units inside Tombolo, you are ready to design your workflow. For the sake of time, as you can see over here, I have already imported the work units that I have planned to use on my workflow. By clicking on Definitions link on the left navigation bar, you can access a list of existing workflows. To add a new workflow, you can click on this Action button and provide necessary details. Again, in the interest of time, I have already created a workflow over here. It is called EB Data Workflow. Let us examine the details of this existing workflow by clicking on this eye icon. On the top over here, I have provided the basic details such as the title, the description, the cluster where I want to execute this workflow. Additionally, I have also configured notifications for successful execution and failure of this workflow. Now, let us explore the actual workflow design. What you see on the screen is a canvas provided by Tombolo to design your workflow. As you can see, I have all the work units already in the canvas that I mentioned before. The first one is get EB data, responsible for making API call and getting the data. The second work unit transforms the data, and the third one is responsible for uploading the data. You can see these work units are connected with each other with a dashed line, indicating that there is some kind of dependency between them. Let us quickly inspect the first work unit on this workflow. When I double click, it will open this model, and you'll be able to see the basic information about this work unit. If you want to go deeper, you can click on the ECL tab to look at the ECL code. Something I want to highlight over here is the Schedule tab. When you click on the Schedule tab, you'll be able to see the scheduling for this particular work unit. Over here, this work unit has a timer-based trigger. If you look closely, you can see there's a cron expression right over here. I'm pretty much telling Tombolo to execute this work unit every 12 hours. Now, let us examine the second work unit. I'm opening the Schedule tab again, and over here, you can see the schedule type is job-based. And it is saying that this work unit is supposed to run after get EB data work unit is done. Same thing with the third work unit on this workflow. If you open and check the schedule, it says that it is supposed to run after transform EB data. Well, this is how the design of workflow is done. Now, let's imagine a need to incorporate an additional step on this workflow. Let us say the data that we are receiving from the first work unit does not seem to be valid. So you want to validate the data before attempting to transform it. So you want to add a additional step in here. So the validation happens before attempting transformation. All it takes to do that is to drag a node, double click it, and attach with the work unit, validate EV data. Now we have this new work unit on the canvas. The next thing you need to do is edit the scheduling. So I'm going to this transform EV data work unit, and I'm going to change the scheduling for this. I'm going to instruct Tombolo to run this after the validation is complete. Again, I'll come back to this validate EV data work unit and add scheduling for this. I'm going to instruct Tombolo to run after the get EV data work unit is done running. Tombolo added this dash line indicating that there is dependency between them. Now, the design is complete. We designed a new workflow. The next step is to save this as a new version. So I'm going to save it as version 10, V10. If you look at the drop down over here, you will be able to see there are two versions of this workflow. One is version 9 and the other is version 10. And currently version 9 is live. Now let's say for some reason you would like to stop the workflow execution. All it takes is to click this button over here, the stop button, and it will stop the execution. Now you want to resume the workflow execution. You can come back over here and click the resume button. And that's all it takes. Now let's say we want to switch it to a new version that we just created, that is version 10. You can click on the play button and it says, are you sure you want to set version 10 as live? You click yes, and now your new version is live. If your workflow is complicated than this, you can break it down into sub-processes. To do that, you need to drag the sub-process node on the canvas and drag and drop the work units that you want to be a part of this sub-process. Since my workflow is very tiny, I am not going to create any sub-processes. So I'm going to get rid of this. All right, moving on, we have covered workflow design and execution. Let us quickly explore execution history for this workflow. To access the execution history, all you need to do is click on job execution, and you will see a list of workflows. I'm clicking the one that I created earlier. And as you can see, I have been running this workflow for about a week now, and it has accumulated some history. And by default, it will expand the latest execution. And looking at the timestamp over here, it shows that the last time it executed was on August 21st at 12 p.m. And during the execution, there were 4 jobs involved, and all of these work units successfully executed. You can tell that by looking at the node, it has the green border, and you can also see this green badge over here. It also shows the work unit for these jobs, and it also shows exactly how much time it took in the cluster to execute this particular work unit. To round things off, since I set up notification, I have received email every time the workflow executed. Let us look at one of the email notifications. From the timestamp over here, I can tell that this notification was sent out immediately after the workflow execution. The notification confirms successful execution of the workflow, and it also gives us a link to view the execution history within Tombolo, and also gives a link to view the history of execution in HPCC, which is Ishia Watch. This concludes the first user story. In summary, Tombolo enables easy workflow creation, real-time notifications, and seamless analysis of work unit execution history. Now, I would like to hand it over to Matt, who will guide you through the remaining user stories and their implementations. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. As Yadhap just introduced me, my name is Matt Fancher. I'm another software developer on this project. I'm going to run us through a few more user stories, which demonstrates some of the capabilities of Tombolo to interact with HPCC clusters and help out your team. Let's start out with user story 2. So let's consider a situation where an important file needs to remain in place, and we want to be notified if it's changed or updated at any point so we can verify the accuracy of the content. Some examples of this could be a VPN connector guide published by your IT department that members of the company need to regularly access, a marketing and branding standards document that developers and marketing people alike need to access on a daily basis for their jobs, or even an HR policies document. In all of these cases, we want to verify that that file remains in place and unchanged. So let's head over to our browser inside of Tombolo and take a look at how to set up this monitoring so that we can have some peace of mind. Okay, so inside of Tombolo, I will head over to our left-hand navigation. Inside of our monitoring section, indicated by this speedometer icon, we'll head to the File Monitoring section. All of our monitoring screens have a similar layout for consistency and ease of use. You'll see on the top right-hand corner a call to action button for adding a new monitoring, and a table displaying all the monitorings that are currently set up and running. I don't have any set up for this example, so let's run through the modal and add a file monitoring. In here, we'll have 3 different tabs of notifications to set up in order to get this monitoring in place. This first tab, Basic, will allow us to select the item that we want to monitor. So this first drop-down box, we will select the type of monitoring, either a logical file or landing zone files. We'll select logical file. Then Tombolo will prompt us to specify which cluster the file will come from. So I will select the 4-way cluster. And then we offer a couple different ways to select your file. We either have an autocomplete function available in this text box right here, or if you select the browse function, you'll be presented with a select screen similar to a Windows Explorer. So when you hit this drop-down, you'll see all of the directories available within this cluster. And I'm going to select the A directory, and then we'll get a list out of all the files inside the A directory. And I'm going to select my personal favorite file. It's the valid file within the directory, so I will select a valid file. Once I have my file, I'll select OK, and then Tombolo will reach out to the cluster and grab some file details so that we can do some extra verification and make sure we selected the right file. Once we've verified that, we use this next button down here and head over to the monitoring tab. This is where we'll set up the technical aspects of what we would like to monitor about this file. First, we'll give the monitoring a name. This is an indicator inside of Tombolo, so we know what this is about. So we'll call this one Demo Monitor. Then we'll need to specify the schedule at which we would like for this monitoring to run. So we specify this by utilizing a cron job. If you're unfamiliar with cron jobs, we offer these information icons are always a link to a user guide within Tombolo. So when I click that, you'll see this guide come out and help you out with designing a cron job so that you can specify the correct schedule to run this job on. We also offer this link down here. Will take you to a cron generator website, which can serve as another easy tool for you to generate these without the technical knowledge. For now, I'm going to set this one up to run every 5 minutes. As you can see, until you have the full cron expression, we'll give you an error message. But once you have a valid cron running inside of this box, we'll give you a quick readout of what that cron would actually indicate. So if you're unsure, this will serve as a secondary check for you. In this notify when box, this is where we'll set up the parameters that we want to monitor about the item. So for this particular example where we wanted to monitor if a file stays in place and isn't changed, we'll select the file deleted. So this will set up anytime this file is deleted or removed, we'll get a notification, and we'll also select file size. So anytime the file size changes, indicating that the file has been updated in any way, we want to be notified so that we can go in and check that the changes to the file are valid and accurate. Once we have all of our technical parameters set up, we can use the next button and head over to the notifications tab. This is where we'll set up what channels we want our notifications to appear on. By default, Tombolo offers email and Microsoft Teams webhooks. If you're unsure how to set up a Microsoft Teams webhook, we once again have this information icon, which indicates a user guide, where we've put in a quick user guide to help you set up a Microsoft Teams webhook. For now, I'm just going to select email, which will then prompt me to enter my email address. Once I've done that, I can simply hit the save button, and you'll see the monitoring will appear in our table here. So we have our active status, the name that we've given it, our file, schedule, and then a number of action buttons here that we can use to interact with this monitoring. So if we want to view or change the monitoring in any way, we can use this view button, which will pull the monitoring back up, and we can make changes to the monitoring and resave it. We can pause or start the monitoring. So if I don't want this monitoring to run for the next, let's say 3 to 7 days, I can simply pause this monitoring, and now I won't receive notifications. But we want to make sure that this file stays in place, so we'll resume the monitoring. And then we also have a delete icon here and an option to go view all the notifications that have been sent out based on this monitoring. I'm now going to show a quick example of what both an email and a Microsoft Teams notification would look like from Tombolo. So let's first head over to the email example. So this is an example that I have from a previous monitoring that I've set up where in relation to a super file. This super file I set up to notify me anytime the file size had changed. So Tombolo sends me an email saying some super file details have changed, and then indicates the file that it is speaking of, and then gives me a table of all of the changes that have happened to that. Since this one just had file size, we just have one row here, but the file size attribute has changed from this size to the new value of this size. Now this is awesome, but we can also do this inside of Microsoft Teams to allow a little bit more interaction with our team when we receive these notifications. So let's head over to Microsoft Teams and take a look at how that would appear. So here on my screen, you can now see this same notification that we have displaying the superfile details have changed with the name of the superfile and the different attributes that have changed about it. So what we can do here is add a comment saying, hey, I handled this already. Or change the status of the notification from in progress to closed. And what this will do is send information back to Tombolo indicating the status of this notification so that our entire team can see that this has been handled or not. All right, well, that would wrap up user story 2. So let's head over and consider another situation. So let's consider a situation where we would like to monitor that a super file is updated on schedule. First things first, a bit of background. A super file is a collection of logical files that are grouped together within an HPCC cluster. This is similar to a Windows directory or folder. They are commonly used to gather and group data sets where new data is uploaded on an interval, similar to what Yadhap showed earlier, where he had the work units collecting data, cleaning that data and transforming it. Those may have been uploaded to a super file for use in other programs. And we may want to, as a team, verify that a super file receives its proper uploads on the schedule that we desire. I'm now going to head over into my browser and let's take a look at how to set up a super file monitoring inside of Tombolo so that we can have some peace of mind with this. Okay, so back in our browser, we'll head over to our monitoring section. And this last option down here is super files. As I mentioned earlier, we've kept these screens as consistent as possible for ease of use. And for time's sake, I've already set up a super file that we can take a look at and adjust as needed. So in this situation, we wanted to verify that this super file receives its data on a set schedule. So we use the view icon right here. And then inside of this monitoring tab, we can see this is super file is currently set up to notify when the file size changes or the file is deleted. We can add an additional parameter here of update interval not followed. Once we see this update interval not followed, it will give us a prompt to specify what the update interval should be. So we can go and either specify that this has a number of expected days between updates. Let's say it's 7 days between each upload of data, or 3. Or we can specify update days. So this will allow us to specify different days of the week that the super file would be updated on. So let's say we're expecting data every Monday and Friday. Now, Tombolo will monitor not only that the super file is not removed, and it will notify us when the file size changes, but it'll also notify us if it doesn't receive an update in time. So once we hit next, we can go ahead and save this monitoring. Now that we have this set up, we can have some peace of mind that our data that we're presenting in whatever application, program, or dashboard that relies on this data is accurate and up to date. We can catch, before we see errors, we can catch that customers have not sent us the data, or our data has not reached its final destination and been put inside of the data set. All right, that concludes user story 3. Let's head over and consider another situation of user story 4. So let's take a look at a situation where a user would like to monitor that a work unit fails. A work unit is a set of ECL code or instructions that an HPCC cluster can run in order to perform actions. These are commonly used to do things like manipulate data, combine data sets, or clean data. We saw a little bit of this with Yadhap's workflow that he set up earlier. But let's take a look at how Tombolo can monitor work units inside of these monitoring screens so that we can have some peace of mind that these work units are operating as they should. going to tab back over to my browser now. And we'll come over here to our left-hand navigation, once again to the monitoring section, and select jobs. Now we already have a few of these set up and running inside of this application, but we'll take a look for the sake of time at one that already exists. This test job right here is one that I've set up previously. So we'll go ahead and take a look at how this is set up. Some important things to note about work unit monitoring is we offer the ability to monitor either a specific job or an entire cluster. So if any job in that cluster meets the parameters that we specify, we'll be notified. For this one, I've set it up for a specific job, and the job that we've chosen is Yadhap-test that we have set up for this. If we head over to the notifications tab, we can see that we have this set up to notify us anytime that the job is in an aborted state, unknown, failed, or the threshold time is exceeded. So anytime this job is in a state that is either aborted, failed, unknown, or takes a time longer than what we specify here, we'll get a notification. This can allow us to get on top of these errors faster before the data is missing from our applications. Once we've made our changes, let's say I'd like to remove the unknown. We can specify our threshold time in minutes. I'm going to adjust this to 20 minutes. Now we'll be notified anytime this work unit is in an aborted, failed state, or takes longer than 20 minutes to run, because we know this work unit usually only takes about 2 seconds to run. So if it's taking 20 minutes, something is probably wrong. Once finished, I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now our job will be updated. Once again, we have this standard set of options of view, pause, delete, or view notifications that have been sent out. But this is just another way that we offer from Tombolo to offer you and your team some peace of mind that important jobs are running and completing on time. Let's take a look at one more user story. For our last user story, we're going to consider a situation where a manager or user wants to review the performance of all the monitorings inside of Tombolo to see trends and common points of failure. The ability to review all these notifications that Tombolo sends out can give us and our teams valuable insight into the performance and stability across all of our assets inside the HPCC cluster. So we can compare performance metrics or get valuable insight into the stability and robustness of our processes. Let's head over into Tombolo one last time to take a look at how these dashboards appear inside of Tombolo. Now that we're back in the browser, let's take a look at our dashboarding section available here in the bar chart icon. We offer some dashboarding available for all of the notifications that Tombolo sends out and some cluster usage history. For now, we're just going to take a look at the notifications section. Inside of this, we'll get first a table that will list out all of the notifications that Tombolo has sent out. But the real interesting stuff is over here under the dashboard section. Here, we can take a look at a view of all the notifications that Tombolo has sent out in a nice, easy to read chart format. So we have things like a circle chart here indicating the breakdown between the number of notifications that were sent out between different notification types. We have a bar chart here that will specify the number of notifications that were sent out by day, and also break it down by the status of the notification. And we also have a pie chart down here that will indicate all of the notifications that have been sent out by the status of the notification. We offer a number of monitoring types and statuses to slice the data by, and also date ranges. For now, we're taking a look at the last 2 weeks, and we can see most days we haven't had any notifications sent out, but on 8/21, we seem to have had 10 notifications sent out, and they're all still in the notified status. This could indicate to me as a manager that something is going wrong with our super files. Something's not being updated. And also these issues haven't been tracked down yet. They haven't been put in an in progress or completed state. So we need to do something about this. We also, if the charting and slicing capabilities of these within the Tombolo application aren't satisfactory, we offer the ability to export the data that you currently have selected. In this top right-hand corner, you'll see an export data action button. When you hover this, you'll be presented with 3 different options. First is to export the data as a CSV file. Second would be to export the data in a JSON file format. And the third would be to create an API key. And the reason you would want an API key is for a program like Power BI. Because Power BI we wouldn't want to just upload the data one time. We'd want to establish a connection between Power BI and Tombolo so that our Power BI dashboard can continue to be updated without us having to manually export these files every single time. So if we go here into the API key, you can see we are now presented with a modal box that will list out all of our currently generated API keys, and also offer the ability for us to generate new keys if necessary. Once again, you can see this little information icon here, which will present you with an API key guide, which will give you instructions on how to set up this API key properly so that it works inside of the application that you are trying to establish this connection with. We believe that all of these options here give users a better and more complete picture on the stability and robustness of a team's processes and how well we're performing over any date range. That will conclude our user stories and live demo section. I'll now discuss some of our future plans and then conclude our presentation. So head back to our PowerPoint, and we will discuss now our future plans. As we move towards the future, we are always looking to add more capability to Tombolo to cover a wide range of use cases and needs. We currently have plans for adding things such as deploying into Azure for Kubernetes-based HPCC clusters, extended metadata management, business glossaries, enhanced search capabilities, enhanced data governance and reporting, and expanding our users and permissions capabilities. And also, if there's a feature set that would benefit you or your team and your management and interaction with HPCC clusters, let us know, and we will add it to our future editions and work with you and your team to resolve your needs. In conclusion, thank you for joining us today on our presentation of Tombolo. Today, we showcased how Tombolo enables and simplifies data workflow creation. We took a look at its ability to monitor important assets and send out timely notifications so that our teams can stay on top of issues before they arise. If you have any questions or feature requests, please contact us by email at customer-solutions@hpcc.systems.com. Any questions at this time can now be directed to the QA section. Thank you for your attendance and support as we strive to make Tombolo into a useful and powerful tool for interacting with HPCC clusters.